On this edition for Sunday, September 22nd, President Trump hits the road and international issues are center stage. And in our signature segment, what Peru is doing to reform the gold mining industry. Next on PBS NewsHour Weekend.
PBS NewsHour Weekend is made possible by Bernard and Irene Schwartz, Sue and Edgar Wachenheim III, the Cheryl and Philip Milstein family, the JPB Foundation, Rosalind P. Walter, in memory of George O'Neill, Barbara Hope Zuckerberg. Corporate funding is provided by Mutual of America, designing customized individual and group retirement products. That's why we're your retirement company. Additional support has been provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people. And by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you. From the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center in New York, Megan Thompson.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. President Trump is on a two-state tour today as he continues to confront questions about a whistleblower's report that he urged Ukraine's president to investigate former Vice President Joe Biden and Biden's son. Mr. Trump left the White House early this morning, heading for Houston, Texas, and later Ohio. The Texas event, called Howdy Modi, was with India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Billed as a community summit, the sold-out rally was designed to highlight the contributions of Indian Americans and the U.S.-India relationship. The president focused on economic ties, space missions, medical research, and, to the cheers of the 50,000 people in the stadium, illegal immigration.
We are going to take care of our Indian American citizens before we take care of illegal immigrants that want to pour into our country.
Before leaving for Texas, the president again answered questions about a classified whistleblower complaint that reportedly involves his dealings with Ukraine's new president and an allegation that Mr. Trump called for Ukraine's government to investigate former Vice President Joe Biden and his son Hunter Biden and their past dealings with Ukraine.
That call was a great call. It was a perfect call. A perfect call. What wasn't perfect is the horrible thing that Joe Biden said. And now he made a lie when he said he never spoke to his son. I mean, give me a break. He's already said he spoke to his son.
Yesterday, Biden told reporters there is no evidence he or his son did anything wrong while Ukraine was conducting corruption investigations.
I've never spoken to my son about his overseas business.
And so how do you know?
Let's talk about, here's what I know. I know Trump deserves to be investigated. He is violating every basic norm of a president.
The president and many Republicans are calling for an investigation of the Bidens. In a letter to her colleagues today, Democratic House Speaker Nancy Pelosi demanded that the acting director of national intelligence turn over the whistleblower's full complaint at a committee hearing this Thursday, saying in part, if the administration persists in blocking this whistleblower from disclosing to Congress a serious possible breach of constitutional duties by the president, they will be entering a grave new chapter of lawlessness, which will take us into a whole new stage of investigation. The president and administration officials also tackled the other international issue facing them, the attack they say Iran carried out on Saudi oil fields last weekend. On political talk shows today, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said Iran is destabilizing the region, and that while the president wants a diplomatic solution, Pompeo accused the Iranians of wanting war.
This was Iran, true, and the United States will respond in a way that reflects that act of war by this Iranian revolutionary regime.
In Iran, a military parade marking the start of the Iran-Iraq War in 1980 featured a huge display of the country's weapons and military troops. President Hassan Rouhani used the occasion to call the U.S. presence in the Middle East, quote, a calamity, and said he will present a new peace plan led by Iran. On U.S. television, Iran's foreign minister would not rule out the possibility of war.
Are you confident that you can avoid a war?
No. No, I'm not confident that we can avoid a war. I'm confident that we will not start one. But I'm confident that whoever starts one will not be the one who finishes it.
What does that mean?
That means that there won't be a limited war.
In Israel, Arab lawmakers recommended today that centrist Benny Gantz be given the first chance to form a government over conservative incumbent Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The Arab Joint List, the third largest faction in the newly elected parliament, informed President Reuven Rivlin of their decision during meetings today. The leader of the group, lawmaker Ayman Adeh, said the 13 members decided to recommend Gantz to prevent another term for Netanyahu. The last time Arab lawmakers recommended a prime minister was in 1992, when two Arab parties backed Yitzhak Rabin. Greek police have arrested a suspect in the 1985 hijacking of a TWA flight from Athens that resulted in the death of an American Naval Service member. The arrest of the 65-year-old suspect was made on Thursday on the Greek island of Mykonos after authorities received a warrant from Germany. The hijackers beat and killed 23-year-old U.S. Navy diver Robert Steedham. The other 146 passengers and crew members were released after 17 days. In Iowa today, there was a significant shakeup in the race for the Democratic presidential nomination. For the first time, Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren leads among likely voters in the February 2020 Iowa caucuses. The Des Moines Register poll shows 22% of likely caucus goers now say Warren is their first choice. Former Vice President Joe Biden follows with 20%, and 11% chose Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders. Biden led in all three of the previous polls, which the Register conducts with CNN and Mediacom. But there's still a long way to go for the Democrats campaigning in Iowa, with 63% of those polled saying they could still be persuaded to support a different candidate. The new poll was based on telephone interviews with 602 registered Iowa voters who said they will definitely or probably attend the 2020 Democratic caucuses. For the latest on the 2020 Democratic presidential candidates and their bid for the White House, visit pbs.org/newshour. Talks continue today in Detroit, Michigan between the United Auto Workers and General Motors on day 7 of a national strike against the automaker. An estimated 46,000 workers walked out last week after GM and union officials failed to come to an agreement on a 4-year contract on issues including wages, health care, and job security. The strike impacts more than 50 General Motors plants nationwide, and the company stands to lose hundreds of millions of dollars as it continues. While negotiations continue, the UAW is calling today Solidarity Sunday and is asking the public to join the picket lines to show support for the striking workers. Phoebe Wall-Howard covers the auto industry and labor for the Detroit Free Press, and she joins me now for the latest on the strike. So I understand that Democratic presidential candidate Elizabeth Warren joined the picket line today. How did her visit go?
Well, from what we understand, she actually met with labor leaders prior to meeting with members. And when she arrived at the plant in Detroit, she met primarily with members. It wasn't about giving a speech. She made slight remarks, perhaps not even 10 minutes. But hundreds of people, hundreds, came to this location, and her remarks focused on what she said, holding General Motors accountable. And by that, members say this is a company that received a bailout during the economic downturn from taxpayers, and today is seeing record profits as executive wages continue to grow. The workers say, it might be time to revisit their benefits and their pay as well.
How are they doing? How's morale?
What's interesting is workers say they're not angry, they're sad. They're very serious about holding out in negotiations, but this is a group of people, approximately 46,000, very, very loyal to this company.
What are the major sticking points that need to be resolved?
Salary, of course, and benefits. Healthcare is perhaps the biggest issue for UAW members, in that they will say they're in a factory environment. They have injured knees, injured arms, injured necks, injured hips, and they use healthcare benefits unlike many, many others. In addition, they do not want to pay a bigger copay, as many Americans do today. Primarily, another sticking point would be temporary workers. The Detroit Three depend quite a lot on temporary workers. They do not qualify for the benefits, the vacation, retirement. So you may have two workers side by side earning very, very different wages. So the companies say these workers are essential for holding costs down and being competitive with the non-Detroit Three.
And I mean, in a way, this breakdown in talks, it's not over new issues. I mean, it's been really years in the making, right?
Members say that they've waited more than a decade for this conversation, that during the downturn, they reduced benefits and they made dramatic changes as a union to assist General Motors. They point to Ford Motor Company and say that Ford did not go bankrupt and in fact had more hourly workers on the payroll. So the GM employees will say, wait a minute, we've taken some big hits here and it is time to circle back and revisit benefits and pay.
Meanwhile, there's this federal corruption probe of the union that's going on. How is that playing into all of this?
The federal probe, corruption, indictments, convictions has been devastating for members and heartbreaking, frankly. So you have people who've gone to prison. We're approaching nearly a dozen under the microscope and convicted and pleaded. However, what the members will say is that they count on their local leadership, and that's what gives them confidence that local leaders will be in charge of ratifying this contract. So any questions raised by the international are then addressed by the local leadership. But the investigation is real, the impact is serious, and the members say they really do feel betrayed. However, they don't see an answer. They feel organizing is essential for fair and equitable treatment long term.
All right, Phoebe Wall-Howard of the Detroit Free Press, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Last night, we brought you the story of Peru's military intervention to stop the Amazon rainforest destruction that accompanies illegal gold mining in the country. In part 2 of our special report, NewsHour Weekend special correspondent Leo Schwartz and New York University's Global Beat program show what else is being done to reform Peru's gold mining industry as the country attempts to restore the damaged forest.
In February, the Peruvian government declared a state of emergency in the vast gold mining region of Madre de Dios. It sent police and army units to try to end illegal mining and the environmental devastation it brought with it. The first results are promising. New satellite imagery already shows a 90% decline in new deforestation related to gold extraction. But the mining won't end as long as it remains lucrative for the miners. That's according to environmentalist Luis Fernandez of the Independent Center for Amazonian Scientific Innovation, or CINCIA.
Gold is literally under people's feet. So if you cut down some trees and dig down in the soil, you can make 10 times or 100 times what you would earn as a farmer in a month, in a single day.
Gold extraction isn't illegal everywhere in Madre de Dios, but is never allowed inside national reserves or the buffer zones around them. One such area has become a mining hotspot, La Pampa. It's the focus of the military intervention. Fernandez's group, which is run by Wake Forest University, is partnering with the government to reform mining practices in permitted areas, accelerating a process Peru started in 2011, but which had little impact. The goal is to improve environmental protections and working conditions in previously unlicensed mining sites. In exchange, it has allowed miners access to legal gold export markets and legitimized their operations. CINCIA operates in centers of the gold trade, like the town of Labyrinto. This scruffy river port is littered with stores selling mining equipment, and its dock is the gateway to both legal and illegal mining sites upriver. A half-hour boat ride away, CINCIA has been working to convince miners that they can benefit from conducting business legally. Pedro Ifantes, a 61-year-old lifelong miner, has agreed to reform his practices to bring them into compliance with the government's official mining program. Ifantes allowed us to film his gold mining operation. It starts where his employees work on a floating dredge. They pump up dirt from the bottom of a pool and filter the gold-rich sand out of the rocky, wet sludge. Later, it ends up in the final gold recovery facility.
Here we are processing the sand that we extracted during our work. It clarifies and then it comes out here. We separate the black sand from the gold, and then the gold comes out. And here the sand comes out, but with a bit of gold in it still.
Ifantes is a pioneer in one very important area. He is one of the first miners to stop using environmentally toxic mercury to extract gold from the sand, even though it makes his work more difficult.
We do what the law says. If the law says do not use mercury, we do not use it. so that you contaminate less. Look, it takes a little bit more time, that is true. But it is better for the employees, better for us, and for the environment. Therefore, it is something that we should do.
Even with miners like Ifantes on board, there is the daunting challenge of what to do with the vast swaths of rainforest that have already been destroyed. That task is also falling to Cincia. The organization is now in the process of reforesting about 100 acres in Madre de Dios. Some of its experimental plantations, with rows of tree saplings, are just a stone's throw away from still active mines. Mining and mercury pollution makes it almost impossible to get trees to grow in the depleted sand. So, using a special charcoal additive designed by Cincia, workers are planting a variety of species to see which can survive. John Farfan, a forest engineer, says 1 year ago, this area was a wasteland because of illegal mining.
This is a maciza. In 1 year, it will grow about 4 meters tall. This is incredible how trees can adapt to this type of soil.
Cincia has planted 70 different species, including ecologically important indigenous ones. The results are already promising.
People who have supported us are fascinated because no one thought that they would see the results in such a short time. They thought it would be slower. Here, I can tell you, for example, that in about 40 years, you are going to see a forest that already has a good size, a good place to host birds, wildlife. We are doing something for the community.
While the military continues its patrols and environmentalists plant their trees, Regional Governor Luis Hidalgo is campaigning for investment and economic development to further diminish the lure of gold. He was elected in 2018 on a platform of stopping illegal mining.
I believe the government has to invest in changing mining activity for agriculture and tourism. Take the example of Costa Rica. People go there because they have conserved their nature. We can do the same here in Madre de Dios. That is what I want most for my region, to have a sustainable economy that is no longer based in mining.
Luis Fernandez is cautious but optimistic that a corner has been turned in Madre de Dios, but it will take time to know for sure. Meanwhile, he says, the global public can play a role.
Consumers, I think, really need to be aware about this and ask, where does my gold come from? If the consumers do not demand that their gold is mined responsibly and only from areas that adhere to the strict environmental and labor standards, they are essentially going to subsidize environmental destruction and other things that I think they wouldn't be wanting to be associated with.
The militant group Boko Haram has terrorized communities in Nigeria, often targeting and exploiting children. The group's abduction of nearly 300 schoolgirls in Chibok in 2014 drew international attention both to the group and to the plight of young women and girls. The insurgency killed thousands, disrupted the education system, and displaced more than 2 million people. The short documentary, Forced, tells the stories of 3 survivors forced to flee from their homes after Boko Haram invaded their village and how they've tried to rebuild their lives. Hari Srinivasan spoke with the 2 director-producers of Forced, Grace Oyenubi and Nani Sarah Walker.
The fact that the world had heard about the Chibok girls so much, but there were so many other young women who we had not heard about, and when you went back there and when you talk to these people, the stories that you end up finding, they're so compelling and gripping, and yet most of us have never realized that the problem is as widespread.
Yeah, a lot of people did not know the scale of it. It's millions of people that have been impacted. A lot of them abducted, a lot of them raped, and of course, all of them displaced. And they're just all living in different places, just trying to survive, trying to live one day at a time. So the scale of it is massive. So it was so important to tell such a story so that the world will know that, look, after all of the crisis, there are people living out there who are survival of rape, abduction, and internally displaced. And they're all out there just living their life.
Nani, one of the interesting things is that this need for safety or just a safe space, even when they get into the camps, perhaps the soldiers might have helped them get there, but then in certain circumstances, the soldiers are also people that are abusing them.
Right. And I think that these are the far, reaching effects of war and conflict, where the good and the bad, it's very difficult to distinguish, right? These women were violated by their protectors. And so there's something really damaging, I think, psychologically in this case, because this is when they've already survived 11 months, having escaped, Boko Haram, surviving in the hills with very little to eat, having lost family members. And so experiencing that kind of trauma after such an event, I think just adds on to more of the horror, right? And just really piles, this psychological aspect to a degree where, these women, it's going to take many years for them to recuperate. And we're talking about, they don't have much access to therapy. There's very little mental health care out there.
Grace, I want to ask, where is Boko Haram today? I mean, one of the military officials that you spoke with was somewhat optimistic in saying we've really got them down into one corner. They're in a very small region. Is that true?
We know that most of the places have been taken over by the military. They're just droplets in a few places. But the fear really for them is the infrastructure. There's nothing left there. What are they going back to? The whole place is in bad shape, So for Boko Haram, I know sometimes they just try to show up that we're still here, but I know the military has taken over most of the places.
What's it like working as a female filmmaker trying to cover topics that certainly the men in power don't want you to be revealing?
Well, it's challenging, and I think that we did confront the military general, and he gave us his response, which was that there is some protocol in place. He didn't address the cases that had been reported, and I think we caught him off guard somewhat. On the other hand, the issue is close to us as women. I think, it's really important to address these issues, whether it's, in Nigeria and in this conflict, or if it's right here.
All right, Grace Oyenubi and Nani Sarah Walker, filmmakers of the documentary Forced. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
This is PBS NewsHour Weekend, Sunday.
Beginning this Wednesday, PBS NewsHour, in partnership with the Pulitzer Center, will begin a special 10-part series called China, Power and Prosperity. NewsHour Foreign Affairs and Defense correspondent Nick Schifrin and special correspondent Katrina Yu will report on China's powerful leader, Xi Jinping, the U.S.-China trade and technology wars, Chinese art, its electric car revolution, the crackdown on Muslim Uyghurs, and the protest movement in Hong Kong. The series features interviews with Malaysia's Prime Minister, Indonesia's Minister of Maritime Affairs, current and former senior Chinese officials, and human rights advocates across 3 continents. Here's a preview.
We can't continue to allow China to rape our country.
Cooperation is the only correct choice for the United States.
Xi Jinping wants total control.
If China wants to become a big, strong country, it will need Xi Jinping.
We believe in democracy, but they believe in suppression.
Faced with the severe threat of terrorism, we have taken anti-terrorism measures.
My mother was arrested, and 3 months later, they released my mother dead.
If the government asked for the data, would you have to turn it over?
In no other country than China have you had such a great amount of change in such a short amount of time.
Welcome to China.
You can see China, Power and Prosperity on NewsHour and NewsHour Weekend beginning Wednesday, September 25th through Saturday, October 5th. Tomorrow on the NewsHour, we'll have coverage of the United Nations General Assembly this week, the UN Climate Action Summit tomorrow, which President Trump will not attend, and the president's address to the UN on Tuesday. That's all for this edition of PBS NewsHour Weekend. I'm Megan Thompson. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.
PBS NewsHour Weekend is made possible by Bernard and Irene Schwartz, Sue and Edgar Wachenheim III, the Cheryl and Philip Milstein family, the JPB Foundation, Rosalind P. Walter, in memory of George O'Neill, Barbara Hope Zuckerberg. Corporate funding is provided by Mutual of America, designing customized individual and group retirement products. That's why we're your retirement company. Additional support has been provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people, and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Be more PBS.